Thanks very much. Oh, sorry. Thanks very much. Yes, that's better. And thank you very much for introducing me as a young man. Didn't have that in the last 20 years, probably. So we did have a good start. Let's continue with this one. I want to out myself. I am probably the least skilled person when it comes to IT on this whole place. So if you have any questions regarding IT, you could easily make me look foolish. Please don't do so. However, if you have any questions regarding psychology, I'd be very happy to tackle them. And I'm not the only one who is good in psychology. Cybercriminals are very, very good in psychology these days. And I would like to talk about how they manipulate us very successfully, how they use Freud and other principles, and let's go into the detail already, and how they will manipulate you. And I'd like to start with a little compliment on your side, because you are very smart. Actually, you're getting smarter by the minute. You are here to smarten yourself up. You listen to all the experts, and you gain more knowledge, more skills. So you would be the ones who would be least likely to be attacked. You're smart, you're experienced, you're safe. Are you? And it's very bright here, so I can't see whether you're angry or smiling. I'm just guessing here. But are you really safe? And I would say, from the perspective of neuroscience, if you think you are, neuroscience would beg to differ. And the thing here, and this is for me the basic mechanism, we always say it's not an IT problem, which I would agree on. It's more than that. But it's also not an IQ problem. And that's the thing we have to keep in mind. I have the privilege, due to NIS2, to have a lot of talks about awareness and then these topics in front of boards of big companies. And people sometimes very openly tell me, listen, I'm in this position, and I am here because I'm pretty smart, and I know how to put things together. I'm very analytical. All of this might be true, but it will not protect you from cyber attacks. Because cyber criminals don't target stupid people. They target emotionalized people. And I'll talk about this in a minute. The thing here is, and I'm sure you're aware of this, there's this famous quote from Bruce Snyder who said, amateurs hack systems and professionals hack people. To make this a little bit more precise, there's one target that all cyber criminals focus on, and that is your brain. Actually, and I can walk a little bit, it's not just your brain. It's not a pointer. It's basically this area and the surrounding. It's all of these areas that process your emotional being, like amygdala, limbic system, and so on. Won't go too deep into that matter. But the thing here is, our emotions are probably our strongest motivator in whatever we do. And you have access to those, you can easily steer a person. Get this quote, and I know it's quite a cliche. There's a psychologist on the stage, and he quotes Freud, but in this context, it really has to be, because this statement, and you've probably heard this along the lines of some political idiots over the last years, it's super misinterpreted, because it has nothing to do with the house of it being an alpha man or whatever people read into this one. It's completely wrong. What this is about, and what Freud meant with the statement, was that in terms of house, he was talking about our mind. We're not the master of our own mind. So most of the decisions that we take, that you take every day, are actually based on emotions. And we see us as this rational being that just has a pro and cons list and then says, I will go for A or B. In most of the cases, this is actually not true. We've taken a decision on gut feeling, on our instinct, our emotion, on other motives, and then subconsciously, so we don't know that. And then we make the pros and cons list, which actually verifies what we wanted to do in the first way. For psychology, that was a super finding. Because if you can make this obvious to a person, this is why you take decisions this way, this is why you behave this way, then people can understand themselves a lot better. At the same time, they can modify their behavior if they want to. So for psychology, that was a revolutionary idea. The problem is cybercriminals got this for themselves at some point. Think about it. If there's something that unconsciously motivates you to do something, and somebody can make you do it, you won't even realize you're being manipulated. And same goes for me. So the decisions I take, I used to work in football. I'm a sports psychologist, so I'm not a therapist. So I work in football, so what do you think? I drive a stupid car. It's not that I took it on a rational decision. I probably told my wife, it doesn't consume that much fuel, and I need to go to places very fast, so I need a car that can do this and stuff. That's not true. Actually, the feeling is good, sitting in the car and driving. And if you go to your local car dealer, what they will do is place you in the car. My car is, I think, 7 years old now, so if my car dealer says, hey, and he always tries to do it, sit in the new one. I will immediately fall in love with this. There's 8 years of car development between this. This is going to be a different experience. So I will not do it because I can't afford a new car. But we do this every day. The stuff you wear, we tell people we have these shoes because they're very comfy and stuff. Mostly we have them because they make us feel cool. So that's a very normal mechanism, and if you need any proof that it works, I will deliver some later on. This mechanism I told you is actually a very fast one. So we have two systems in the brain, and I got 2 slides on the brain, so stick with me throughout these, I'll make it quick. But the thing is, there's a system 1, which is very fast, also very emotional, and very intuitive. It's a very good system, by the way. We need this to have fast decisions. Fight, flight would be on this side. And we have a system 2, which is more rational. It is slower, it is still very fast, but it's slower, and it's more deliberate. Both systems are essential to our being. We need them. As one little problem that we see, normally the way would be a stimulus, let's say you see a phishing mail and then you process it in different parts of the brain. And then once it's processed, so I should have taken the one with the pointer. So it's processed in this area where we have all of our higher thinking, the prefrontal cortex. Then it goes to the amygdala, and we put an emotional tag on it. Is it actually a pleasant experience or not, or are we scared, happy, whatever. The problem here, and that's this very big problem, is in terms of very, very intense emotions, there's a bypass. So if we have something that's very emotional, that can go to the amygdala directly. And I don't know if we've been talking about football before, if you watched the qualifiers, the German game. When Germany won, when they shot the goal, you can actually see in the slow-mo, there's a German fan has 2 cups of beer, and he immediately drowns them over his head. Very emotional reaction. That's not rational. I'm very happy for that person because he must have been super happy in this very second. And I say you deserve this, enjoy. The problem is, what you probably would not like to be is this person in front of a phishing mail in that emotional state. Because all of his higher thinking is for a short period of time, let's say inhibited, a little bit slower. So the thing here is, whatever we do under very strong emotions, we don't do very well. I also work in boxing and MMA, and if you see the fighters before the fight really insulting one another, it's not because they don't like each other. It's because if I face somebody who has exactly my skill level, but that person is very emotionalized, very mad at me, I have a higher chance of winning. You might remember this from your driving license test. There was a question, when should you not be driving a car? A, if you're super happy, B, super mad, and C, was super sad. And you passed the question if you had all of these 3 checkboxes. At a certain point in time, this was the one question that with the most errors in all of the driving license exams. So we did it a very German way, and we changed the question now. But it's still valid. So whatever we do under strong emotions, we don't do very well. And the thing here is, and that's the summary of this slide, if this emotional reaction is so strong, it can bypass our own security system. And the good news is, if we train on it, it will not happen. If I work with boxers, for example, a crucial thing for them is not to get mad in a fight, not to lose the temper. boxing is, even though it sometimes looks different, a very strategic, very rational sport. If you need proof that it works, who of you knows the Ashley Madison case? It's on Netflix, some very few, okay. Those of you who haven't, the documentary is, I think it's worth watching. It's not perfect, but it's good. Brief summary, Ashley Madison was a dating portal, but a very special one. If you wanted to be on it and date somebody, it was not like you were single and you wanted to date, but you've been in a relationship and you still wanted to date somebody on the side. And for some reason, that worked very well. They had like hundreds of thousands of users until they got hacked. And usual hack, cybercriminals said, hey, pay us a ransom or we'll publish all the data of your users. Ashley Madison said, no, we're not going to do this. And the cybercriminals did what they promised to do. They released the data with like some very dramatic consequences because some people actually said to be have committed suicide afterwards. I was not going to talk about the hack today, but more about something that people found out in the aftermath of the attack. Actually, before the attack, we knew that it was like about the same number of male and female users of the portal, which is very statistically an outliner in terms of these things. Turns out it's an outliner because it was faked. Because like 70,000 bots have actually imitated to be female members on the platform. And these bots were programmed to interact with emotions. So loneliness, longing, flirting behavior, all of these kind of things. And people flirted with them over months. So you have to see this, like you join a dating portal, you want to, I would say, have like some physical contact to some person, and then you flirt with a bot for months. And I think this is like 5 years old, like probably correct me if it's longer even. So that is, in terms of AI, that's way back. And still this worked out perfectly. Nobody had a clue that it was not really humans on the platform. If you look at the EU AI Act, I think we talk about this later again, among the like forbidden use of AI is the emotional manipulation. So we know it's a thing, we know it works. We know it works very well. If you look at the first Trump campaign, for example, also kind of an example how these things work, like the, what was it, Cambridge Analytica? If you would be posing something emotional, like you were very fear-related, then you'd get the immigrants topic played out by the Trump team. And if you had like very confident statements, then you got more like the patriotic messages. So the early stage of this, and we are way better than this now, so it's quite a dangerous topic. Now I said the Ashley Madison hack is pretty old in these terms. Now AI enters the game, and AI completely changes the game. And the one question that I always get when I'm at conferences is, can we keep up with AI? Because it's so fast. And I would answer, yes, definitely we can. But I come to this later, why I believe so. The thing is, we have new attack vectors like phishing and deepfake video calls and so ever. A new quality in social engineering, but also in the attacks and a high scalability. Because it's a lot cheaper, it's easier to manufacture. So it does change the game a lot. And we are very scared for a good reason. One example I'd like to give is voice phishing. And you've probably, I don't know if you tested the simulation yourself. I did one recently. It was quite revealing. I will just go through the steps, leave out the brain areas. If you're happy to talk about those, I will love to tackle them afterwards, but I don't think it makes sense now. It's a 3-step process. So if I call you on the phone, you'd be like listening to me, then kind of fingerprinting or like identifying who is this person. And then the third step, and this is actually the dangerous step, then you put an emotional stamp on it. So if it's, I don't know, if my wife calls me, I will be in a certain mood automatically. If my mother calls me, and I love my mother, but I'll be mad in seconds. We're not really good on the phone in a son-mother relationship. And if my boss calls me, I'll be in this I'm a good employee state. So even before somebody said something on the phone, I am manipulated. If the voice kind of matches what the real voice is, then I will be in this emotional state. And you can, I got like actually a picture of of the original and a cloned voice. And you kind of see the differences in brown and blue. I hope you see them. But if you don't see them, it's not because of the graphics. It's because they are minimal. It's almost unseeable and almost also unhearable. So there's 3 reasons why, if I would attack you with a voice phishing, you'd actually fall for it most likely. And one of those is a technical one, is the missing red flags, because it's so good right now. I've talked to somebody this morning, and he said, like, I was listening to the podcast for ages, and then I found out it's actually not the original language that the podcast is. It's translated via AI. And I don't know if you have that. I like to listen to audiobooks to fall asleep. And sometimes I mistakenly take one with an AI that tells me stuff. And then, like, for 2 minutes, I almost fall asleep. And then I find out, oh, this mispronounces a word. Or this, like, just sounds off. And it's kind of like, I have to look for a new one. Always very much the not liking of my wife. But I can't sleep like this. Nowadays, they are so good, you don't really realize it. And that's the problem with voice phishing. You hardly hear the red flags when you see them. Now then, to the top-down processes. If you expect somebody to call, that call will sound like that person that you expected. If you expected to meet somebody here today and you look, I don't know, in the distance and you have like my vision, you probably think, there he is. And it's not that person. But you expected this pattern to arrive. So that's why we have a lot of these kind of attacks where you get an email, so I will be calling you in a second, and then somebody calls because it really primes you for the call. And last but not least, and this is also a very important effect, the brain does not really go for, okay, I test everything in this pattern, this is the person. But rather like, do I see a pattern? Oh yeah, that's it. It helps us function a lot faster and a lot more, and it's very resource saving, but it can be a problem. All of the optical illusions that you've probably seen in your life are based on this principle. And I would like to demonstrate this for a little second. You all will probably know this fellow. I mean, you kind of should. I will spin this around slowly. And you can kind of see, I couldn't stop it there. I'm very limited in my PowerPoint skills, but I can probably do it again. But here, the thing is, if it's the right side, you see like everything is missing. So your brain recognizes it in this position. Now it's a bit more difficult because you've seen the other side, but it recognizes the patterns. And thinks, okay, this is Barack Obama, obviously, and he's happy. And then you twist it and see how it's not. And the same thing happens with voice clonings. So what are the consequences? There are a few. First of all, we see that a good voice cloning bypasses our own security systems. It kind of like walks through our brain's firewall. And we don't even realize it because it's subconscious. Second thing is, voice phishings are so effective, and we have so many of them, because they have stronger effects. In a text message, the pressure that people apply, or the emotionalization, is via the content, and maybe the way how it's written. In a voice phishing, it's the content and it's the voice. And the third part even, if you simulate this, you will find out it's pretty easy if you have an email and say, I let this rest for a minute and look at it again. You can't do this in a phone call. So while you're on the phone, the pressure is really high to like immediately have an answer and a response, and that can really be stressful. So the thing for me is, if we don't simulate this, people will underestimate the effect. And I've been a victim to this before, because I told people at conferences, so hey, this is what you should do if you have a voice phishing. And then our own beta was tested on me, and I was very close to making a very big mistake. If it's really the voice of your boss, it's as intimidating as that boss is, and if it's kind of fitting into the situation, it's very difficult to withstand the pressure. And last but not least, what we have to do is tell people, this is what happens to you. It's not just there is voice phishing, this is how you behave, but we should also tell them, this is what it does to you. And it's a very strong thing, so it's more than just letting people know. Short example, I'm not sure if one here in this room smokes. If you do so, please keep on doing that. But the thing is, like 100% of the smokers in Germany, I believe, know it's not really good for their health. They get this newsletter with every package they buy. So it's not just about knowing, it's about experiencing. How can we help ourselves? And there's a lot of things that we could do. And I'll be briefly here, of course, always verify, which can also be difficult. have robust processes. All of the examples that we have in the media now, you'll probably know the deepfake video call of AROB, where the employee was with his CFO and his colleagues, and on the next day finds out nobody except for him was in that call. So bad for that person, and it's a pretty refined attack, but also there's a reason why these attacks, when they come to life, they mostly start in the financial sector, in the Asian room, because they have very hierarchical structures, and that makes it easier to facilitate these kind of attacks. So error culture has something to do with cybersecurity culture quite a lot in this regard. By the way, always verify. I said I was tested with our voice phishing, and the way this went down, I want to be very open about this. Like 3 of our program designers, they came into my office and said, "Hey, Chris, Frank is my CRO. I report to Frank. Frank wants to call you." And it's a bit odd. Normally, I don't have interaction with these guys, and for some reason that makes probably sense. So I said, "Okay, when?" "Immediately." So, okay, thanks for the info. And we have a very nice building. It's steel and glass and has the side effect I don't have any receipt with my phone in there. So I went on the balcony where I always have my phone calls and thought, like, before I wait for his call, I will just call him. But before I could, he actually called me. So I said, "Hey, Frank, what's up?" And he said, "I got a problem. I'm in a call with a customer. It's very urgent. I need access to this system." And I was actually about, like, why are you not having access and what's going on? And then I saw, like, the 3 programmers, like, standing around the corner, kind of like watching me what happens. And so immediately I thought, like, okay, I have an idea what's happening, but like the voice was so close to the original one, and I thought, I'm smart. So I tell him, "Hey, listen, you know we have the policy, I can't give you access." And he got a little mad and said, like, "Of course I know the policy, don't give me shit, give me the access." And I say, "Okay, that's actually intimidating." I say, "Hey, Frank, what's the customer you have in the call?" He said, "It's this and this solutions. And we have like 5,500 customers. There will probably be 900 this and this solutions, so no way I can like quickly find this in our CRM and verify it." So they, "Okay, can you verify using another channel, like Teams?" And so, "Of course I can't," and it's very intimidating. So I'm trying to like come up with good smart questions, and I don't have them. And actually what helped me was like I was like just thinking like what could I say? And after a while, without saying anything, the AI started from scratch. And so I say, "Okay, now I know what's happening." And I also saw the 3 stooges around the corner, like their shadows were on the floor. And it's a good thing they are on the defensive side. They would be very bad attackers. But what I'm up to here is, and then I want to be very open about this. This voice and this realistic dialogue, if I hadn't known this was a fake, I think I was very close to like giving out access. Even though I work in this field for 5 years now, that's like what I do on a daily basis, but it was so realistic. And of course I want to be a good employee. I don't want to set up my boss mad. So watch out for the realisticness of these things. Mental stop strategies. I normally teach that to athletes, but I didn't use it in the call. Very important. Train this. And the last point here is a very important one psychologically. Tell your people to tell other people. If you say, like, this is actually a big threat to our parental generation on the phone. If you tell your employees, hey, this is actually what could happen to your parents, tell them this is a thing and tell them how to be safe. What it does is 2 things. First of all, they see you as not the IT that tells them don't click, don't do, but as the IT who is a service provider. And secondly, and that's even more importantly, if they go to their parents, I went to my parents, told them, and in the very second that they go to their parents and tell them, they become from a recipient of your messages to a messenger themselves. And that changes the way they see IT security, so like involve them into your game. But the one point I want to stretch here is actually the sensibility for the emotional triggers. Because I said before, we can keep up with AI, but if we want to, that's the one thing that we have to learn. That's the one thing that makes everything different. I'm going back to football again. This is an emotional wave, so basically we all have these. If I insult you now, there would be a trigger, you'd be very mad, and then it kind of fades out. If you're a football fan, you saw the goal, you'd be super happy, and then it fades out. So every emotion looks like this, more or less, a bit longer, a bit higher, depending on the intensity of the emotion. Bad emotions have a tendency to last a little bit longer. Why am I showing you this? Because, I talked about the football fan with the beer cups. He was at this very peak of emotion when he did that. And what do you think, when will cybercriminals want us to answer on a phishing mail? It's exactly there. That is the one reason why, or the biggest reason, why we have the time pressure in phishing mails. Answer now, answer immediately, correct this right now. Often the content side of things, so scary that you want to do it now. Because they want you to react when you're super emotional. AI does this as well. Like all the AI scams pressure you to do something immediately. Because if you'd have the time, in this case, let's say 50, 60 seconds, you'd be very rational and think, oh, this might be a fraud. We did a study on our own phishing simulation. We can see that that participants of more than 1 million, like 95% of the clicks happen within the first 25 seconds. So when you're really emotionally aroused about the email. And if you understand this pattern, then you have a very strong weapon against AI. And to make this very simple, because AI is so complicated, I think we have very simple answers to this. To spot an AI scam, I think it's not good to always count fingers or watch the tongue movement, but rather in the case that you're emotionally triggered, if there's something in this email, this phone call, this message that triggers you very strongly, that hardly happens on a normal basis in your job life, get a coffee. Not because of the caffeine, but if you, I don't know about your coffee machine, but if I walk out of my office to the coffee machine, get a coffee and get back, it's probably 3 minutes, I'm not sure. I normally meet somebody at the coffee machine, so it's 10 minutes. And when I go back, I'll be like a lot more rational than I was when I saw the email the first time. It doesn't need to be coffee, so for those of you who are insulted with the smoking example, you could also grab a cigarette, tea, you're in Munich, the Weizen, whatever. Step away from the computer or from the phone and get back to it. Second one is ask colleagues or friends. It's a very simple reason, not because they are smarter than us, but because if the email wasn't addressed to them, they will read it much less emotional than we do. You've probably experienced this if somebody of your colleagues gives you an email and says, hey, listen, there was like a big fight today. This person wrote me this. And then you read it, and it's kind of a normal email because you don't have the emotional attachment. And that's why it's always good to have like a second pair of eyes, and last but not least, have somebody do some research on it. I'm at a financial institute in Leverkusen, and if I do some transactions, which obviously look a bit weird, they actually call me up. Say, hey Chris, is this really you? And say, yes, I am, and thank you so much for doing this. So we live in a time where I don't think anybody's mad if we verify. And so I'm coming a bit to the end here. What's the conclusion? First off, AI scams are much more than deepfake videos. What they are is probably a next level of attack. And in terms of voice phishing and those deepfakes, they are very, very strong when it comes to emotions. We need to be prepared for things that happen. And I probably span out this point because you will actually, you can answer this better than me, but there's going to be a lot of attacks, better, newer, different. The one thing that I want to stress out, and that's where psychology plays in, AI changes so much in this game. But AI does not change the mechanism. The manipulation of emotions, the emotionalization, that is the same with AI. It might be stronger, it might be better, but it's actually the same thing. So that's not what AI is going to change, and that's what we can keep in charge. And for me, the thing is, if you want to be safe, because I had the discussion over lunch, what do we need, psychology or the technical side? And I believe it's not an either-or discussion. Of course, we need both. I think we need the technology, we need robust processes, absolutely, and we need psychology. We need our people. If you think about this, if you take an Uber to the airport or a taxi or whatever, you'd want them to have a car that has all the technical security measures in place that you need. At the same time, you want this person to be a good driver, have a driving license and stuff. And this is the same in companies. For me, it's also about like giving some of the responsibility to the people. And so for me, those are the 2 points. And yes, I have a background in psychology, so I see these points probably bigger than you will. But if I could enter them a little bit into your thinking, I'd be very happy, because I think they really make a difference. And having said this, if that kind of triggered you a little bit, so I actually like the human part in psychology, in cybersecurity, then there's a conference on the 4th and 5th of November in Cologne, which I can just recommend. Super, it's the biggest one of its kind, and it has an entire focus on psychology and cybersecurity. And in this context, I'd say probably one last sentence: you and your employees will be trained. That is a given. The question is whether it's done by you or by the attackers. Thank you very much.
So if you have a look on the clock, you will see that we have 7 minutes left, which was done on purpose, because we were talking about how Christian loves the Q&A, because that's the question you really want to an answer to. First of all, I have a question. Can you go one slide back, please?
Yes, of course.
That on the far right, is that Ralf Schumacher?
That is.
Okay, perfect. So
there's a good reason why he's at the conference.
Because of the haunting ad everybody gets on YouTube.
I haven't got the reason yet, but I think so, maybe. Or he wants to know what your car is.
Perfect, perfect. So does anybody here have a question that's not how much is your car worth? So I'm trying to throw as bad as I can. There you go. In the black box, yeah.
In the black box. Here, right, okay. Thank you very much for this very interesting talk. And one of your last points were to confirm, so that if somebody sending you an email, sending you a text or whatever, to confirm this. And I also recommend this to my colleagues in the office.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is if a client sent you something unusual, please confirm. But I think what it does is also change our behavior to our group, to our friends, to our families. So if we are always aware that somebody will scam us, so what is your response to this? Because I think most of the scams are also in private, not in companies. The impact may be not that big, but it changed how we behave.
It will. That's a great question. The thing is, and that's the sad answer, it will change us. It's something that we cannot avoid. If you think back, there was a time when actually a photo was a proof. So we saw a photo and we were sure this thing actually happened. Now you're in a video call live with somebody, and you can't guarantee it's that person. And I think on a professional level, it's not too difficult. So if my CRO, for example, after the AROP thing said we need to have something in place, and we always confirm talking about the latest in-person meeting we had. So something that's not online, stuff we talk about regularly. So it's a mixture of a confirmation and small talk, and you can see, okay, this is actually working. Which is exhausting, by the way. It can be exhausting. And if you're in a big company, I don't know, let's say you have a 30,000 strong company, and you probably have 10 or 15 people on a higher level that you talk to that are responsible for transacting money. It gets more complicated. On a private way, for me the thing is, you don't always have to verify. You do if the context is relevant. So if somebody wants something from you that could potentially be harmful. If you always verify, you could just get mad. You just lose it. And also, I like to train my people how to politely do this in calls. If they have customers. So just to ask them interesting questions. Some little discovery and say, okay, this works. I wouldn't call it a confirmation, because the other one feels you're paranoid if you always try to confirm. But if you ask 2 or 3 questions, only that person can know, then you're better off. So 2 things here. The one is on the professional side, train the people. On the private side, confirm when it's important. If somebody said, hey, can you send me a picture of your daughter at the wedding or something, I would say, let's go in there. But if it's just, hey, are you interested in breakfast? And so I would say, yeah, please, get me coffee. Or they answered your question in that regard. The sad part of it is it will change our society. That's a given.
Test, hello. First of all, thank you for this very interesting talk. I have 2 questions. So first would be, So the attackers try to use our system 1 compared to system 2.
Yes.
Generally speaking, will be difficult to say, I guess. How often is they are disagreeing? So these two systems, when we are not someone having to force us to make quick decisions. And the second question, as a topic, is about like probably you heard about the uncanny value effect, I think. It's like when you getting more to robotic faces, for example, we find it very creepy actually. And actually, I thought the pattern, we see some differences, but our brain autopolates this or whatever, and it doesn't work with voice. Any explanation for that? Thank you.
By the way, to answer the second question first, we do see a difference, but it's not getting to our conscious. So what we can see in the tests is that the brain areas that process it are more active than normal. So it takes us more resources to process a cloned voice than the original one. Well, we don't know it. So if we asked the participants which of these two were the correct one or the cloned one, they couldn't tell. But we saw something in their brain was different. So our brain is like absolutely fascinating organ. We still don't know how it completely works. That's the good thing about it also. What we do see is that a lot of things that happen to us in our perception of the world, we can't really control, we can't really understand. And in terms of voice phishing, the big problem that we have is if it's not completely, has these red flags in there, we will not get it. And it's a bit different with the visual images because they're also far more complex. So it's far more difficult to replicate a picture of somebody, especially when you're talking stuff, precisely than it is to clone the voice. But, and that's to your question probably also, we will get there. You know how rapidly AI is evolving. You will know better than me. So there will be a point in time. That's why I said don't count fingers or don't do these things, because you'll be left behind. Because very soon in the future, there won't be any finger counting or tongue movement. That was the first thing. And it's super irritating for me to watch a video and then, the tongue maybe? Because I never watched a tongue before, so I don't know what would real look like and the copy. So to that effect, we will at some point, it will be undistinguishable for us, which is a deepfake video, which is the real video. Because our brain doesn't evolve alongside the attackers. Now I answered so deeply. What was the first part of your question? I'm sorry.
System 1 and System 2, like
normal
cases, how they often disagree or agree.
Yeah, so the system is, normally both systems work at the same time. So let's say you hear this talk, and so you'll be processing, is this interesting for me or not? And you'd also give an emotional tag on it. Did I actually, besides all the content was good or bad, or the speaker mumbled so much, like, did you feel well here? Did you enjoy listening to it? It goes at the same time, and you'll reserve it, you save the copy as either good or bad, or whatever mood you had. Which is very important, because if you recall what I said today, you'll be in the same mood. And that's, for example, interesting for our trainings that we have. If we train people because we force them to do so, we say, if you don't do it, there's a penalty. If you click on a phishing mail, I'll get you stuff, then people will learn under fear. So that will be stored together in the brain. And also, whatever we learn under fear, we only have very one-dimensional. So that's just like fight and flight. What we want people to have is something they can use in a broad field of applicances. So it's always important to have this fun side of things. And normally there's not a disagreement, to answer your question. I mean, we do it at the same time, put a stamp on it. The problem is, in few cases, very strong emotional ones, we override the one system. Afterwards, and that's probably the last thing I have to say because it's important, we can reverse the effect, which is very problematic because if I fell for a phishing email and now I reverse it, like after, I see on the rational side of things, oh, how stupid was I? So it's very difficult for me to walk to you guys and say, hey, sorry, experts, I made a mistake. Because you feel stupid, because the emotional side is gone and it's a different emotion on it now. So this emotional effect only lasts for a couple of seconds. So if you survive this, if you're a procrastinator or whatever, you're more on the safe side. Thanks for the question.
For me personally, I will remember this talk, and every time I will see you in the future, I will feel very happy and also very fascinated. So thank you so much for your talk on psychology today. It was very fitting, and I took a lot away from it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.